How good on the eve of Start of Origin, get a bit of an opportunity to sit here and have a chat with the King. The first question I want to ask you, Wally, is do you like being called the King?
No, it was actually a nickname that was given me out of disrespect. It was an insult. A New South Wales player at the time, it was Ray Price actually, he got involved in a conversation with a journalist, and one of the journos said something about it which was a bit over the top for me, and he said, "Oh, fair dinkum, why don't you just say Wally got it again? Fair dinkum, he thinks he's the king." And from that day forward, it all started. Gene Moles and Greg Dowling rang me every day. King, what's happening? King, can we do this? So I sort of saw it as a little bit of a form of insult or teasing, and that's the way it sort of got me going a little bit in the early days.
Well, there you go. Both our nicknames came from Start of Origin. Freddie came from Jack Gibson. He didn't know who I was when I walked in. He said, "What's your name, boy?" I went, "Brad." He went, "Righto, Fred, sit down." That's it. On the other hand, why is Start of Origin so special?
Mate, State of Origin was talked about probably for quite some time before it even got underway. A lot of the people in Queensland used to whinge, moan, groan and complain about the interstate series, and basically saying to us, or to the general public, if you give us our players back, we'll be a chance of beating New South Wales. There are a whole pile of players that were representing the Blues and starring for New South Wales on a number of occasions. Arthur Beetson, of course, being the best of them, and the call was, if you bring them back, we will beat you. And there was a guy from the Courier Mail newspaper in Brisbane, and also Ron McAuliffe got involved, and a couple of businessmen that said, we've got to try and get it. And it was almost going to go ahead in 1979. 1980 it kicked off, and the fuse was lit. It absolutely exploded. But of course, Arthur Beetson was going to be in there. We had to have somebody that was the sort of the voice of rugby league and the backbone of rugby league, and Beetson certainly was that. And to see the way that he dedicated himself to play the game of his life at 35 and a half years of age was something quite extraordinary.
It was the ultimate picture, wasn't it? Because Arthur was New South Wales. He was starring for New South Wales at the time, and for have him to come out and then what he did with his own teammates and how he defended the jersey, I suppose, Queensland, sort of set the scene. From my point of view, when I look back as a kid, and I used to watch yourself, and I don't really remember the 1980 game. It was more the early 80s. I just remember being nervous as an 8 and 9 year old kid. I remember the build up for the game. I was so nervous, for our team, and it felt like from the start that we were the actual underdogs, and I was always painted the other way. But it just you always look so united, and I think Origin came for that. Like from my point of view, it was just how nervous I was leading into those games as a kid watching, let alone when I got to be a player.
Yep. Yeah, it created that, and certainly for the Queenslanders, we used to go along every year hoping that we could score a try. We knew we weren't going to beat New South Wales, but we just wanted to score a try. All of that changed. State of Origin was underway. Beetson spoke to the players, and we probably felt that we were some chance or a good chance about it. After recording the success in Game 1, we didn't have Arthur on board for Game 2. He should have been there, and he actually pulled out at the medical. And I said to him, "Arthur, mate, there's nothing wrong with you. You can play." And he said, "Oh, it's a bit sore. The leg's a bit sore." He said, "But mate, I'm too old." He said, I'm past it. He said, "You guys can do it. You really can. If you believe in yourselves, you're a bit of a chance." That sort of started from there, and we got. I'm pretty sure I remember correctly. We had a horror start. I think we were down by 15 points, 15-0 or something like that, and eventually, we got going. But we were very fortunate. There's the word again, fortunate. When we had a bunch of blokes. So 12 months after that, it was a group of kids that were basically, to give you the team: Colin Scott, Kerry Boaster, Gene Moles, Mel Meninga, Chris Close, myself, Mark Murray, Paul Vorton, Wally Fulton-Smith, Brian Niebling, Greg Dowling, Greg Kinescu and Dave Brown. All of those blokes were born in 1959 or 1960. We played a whole pile of football against each other, extraordinary amount of footy against each other, and we knew each other's games backwards. The thing I think that was probably the biggest benefit for us, Freddie, though, was that we went out there, we were full of hope, full of self-belief, and we had a bloke like Beetson on board that was prepared to bend in any direction to make sure that we got what we wanted, and we were playing the style of game, I think, that suited us.
Yeah, I played in a couple of footy teams. Played one in the early 90s with Laurie Daly and Glenn Lazarus and Ian Roberts and Paul Sirinen and Ricky Stewart and Brad Clyde. And there was a real feeling amongst those fellas that were quite unbeatable. And then there was a team in the year 2000 where I think it was the same. That was a very different team. And you had Brian Fletchers and Ben Kennedys and Andrew Johnsons. And that was a footy team where I thought you just didn't feel like you were going to lose. And you know, I've never actually felt as powerful. There was times playing for Australia where I just felt like you weren't going to lose. But those teams, because you're given such a long time and the morale's so intense, I think those teams were gave you a feeling of strength and power that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, one of the greatest moments, I think, and you've almost sort of described it, was when you were standing there, the national anthem was up, and you were having a look around at the team, and you were thinking, he's a pretty handy footballer, this bloke. He's not bad. Have a look at it, And I'm feeling quite comfortable standing alongside these guys. It's going to be even better. I'm sure your guys would have had respect for the Queensland blokes, but the confidence that was there at that time reached a level where you were basically unbeatable. You had that confidence reach such a level that you were also creating doubt in the mind of the opposition. They were thinking, have a look at the blokes we're up against. Are we any chance of being able to do it? That is the respect that State of Origin creates or demands, and when you've got a side like that, I think that when you go out there, your task is half done already because you know the standard of the players you've got alongside you.